Hello and welcome once again to our special coverage of the Elections Unlocked, your one-stop destination when it comes to elections. I said, election season is upon us again. In a few hours from now, Jammu and Kashmir will vote for a new state assembly after a decade. A lot has changed in these past 10 years. It's no more a state, it's a union territory today. Article 370 has been abrogated. The Modi government claims it's a Naya Kashmir. But remember, there's also been a recent spike in terror activities, mainly in the Jammu sector, that's raised security concerns. But Kashmiris claim they are determined to elect and script their own democratic history. Where once stones were pelted, they say this time you will see votes. Let's therefore start as Kashmir builds up to that first phase of a three-phase election. The 7 districts that are going to the polls. How is the security dragnet across them? Take a look at our top focus on Elections Unlocked.
The last-minute preparation is in full swing for the first phase assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir. Within hours, voting will start and the biggest concern is security.
जम्मू कश्मीर पुलिस ने जो डिस्ट्रिक्ट पुलिसेस ने अपने लिए जो इलेक्शन रिलेटेड सिक्योरिटी अरेंजमेंट है काफ़ी इलेबोरेटली उसको चॉक आउट करा हुआ है और इस इंतज़ाम में एरिया डोमिनेशंस जो हैं आपका एरिया सैनिटाइजेशन है उसको भी इन्वॉल्व करा है और इसमें जो हम लोगों की मदद के लिए सेंट्रल आर्म पुलिस फोर्सेस जो कि चुनाव के लिए स्पेशल ड्यूटी पे आती है, इसी के साथ साथ जम्मू कश्मीर आर्म पुलिस और जम्मू कश्मीर की जो अपनी पुलिस है वो जो पोलिंग बूथ्स और स्टेशन हैं उसको मल्टी-टियर्ड सिक्योरिटी प्रदान करेगी.
In total, about 900 companies, each consisting of 110 personnel, have been assigned to handle election responsibilities in the Union Territory. These include 300 additional companies of CRPF, BSF, SSB, which have been brought in. A 3-tier security plan has been devised by the Jammu and Kashmir Police.
काफ़ी वाइब्रेंट इसमें पार्टिसिपेशन हो रहा है और हम लोग जो है काफ़ी जो है इसमें काफ़ी एनर्जी के साथ इसमें पार्टिसिपेशन हैं, चाहे रैलीज हैं, कैंपेनिंग हैं और कैंपेनिंग में काफ़ी एक्टिविटी काफ़ी तेज है और काफ़ी एनर्जी इस पूरे माहौल में लग रही है. तो लिहाजा पहले के बनस्पत काफ़ी इसमें फ़र्क तो है और जो कि पॉजिटिव चेंज है जो कि एक इलेक्शन प्रोसेस के लिए एक हेल्दी साइन हमेशा से ही रहा है.
From 7 a.m. 18 September morning, 24 constituencies spread across 7 districts of the Union Territory will vote. The fate of 219 candidates will be decided by nearly 23.27 lakh voters in 3,276 polling stations. A decade later, Jammu and Kashmir is prepared to vote for its assembly with vigor.
Election Commission has made elaborate security and other arrangements for the polling in the Jammu and Kashmir Assembly elections. As these elections are being conducted after the gap of 10 years, there is lot of effort put for these elections so that more and more voters can come out and cast their vote. With Muzaffar Ahmed Ashrafani for India Today in Srinagar.
And joining me now is our Srinagar correspondent Mir Farid. He's been tracking these elections for us. Farid, what are you picking up in terms of the security apparatus that's in place? We've got sensitive constituencies in South Kashmir going to the polls, some in the upper reaches of the Jammu sector. But what are you picking up in terms of the security? Is it much more than it used to be in previous elections, including the Lok Sabha?
Well, Rajdeep, the build-up has been good. Needless to say that this time around, for a change, the elections are going to happen without the fear of the gun. Because if you compare these elections, the build-up to the previous elections used to have stone pelting, boycott threats, then grassroots workers targeted. But this time around, nothing of that sort has happened. And in fact, I put the same question to IGP Kashmir, Mr. V.K. Birdi. He said that 3-tier security will be in place. More than 900 companies of paramilitary will assist the Jammu and Kashmir police in ensuring an absolutely fair, free atmosphere is created for the voter and also for the candidate. Now, if you remember, in fact, 10 years back, say even in 2014 or 2008, right now we would be basically focusing on tomorrow's coverage and thinking about areas like South Kashmir, Shopian, Pulwama, focusing on the sensitive areas and then really planning the way, because used to have stone pelting, then there was the terror threat, there were terror posters, so it was an atmosphere of fear. But this time around things are better, and that's why we're seeing that there has been a vibrant campaigning from one and all. There has been enthusiasm, and for a change they have been targeting each other rather than focusing on the outside threat from the militants or from the separatists. So it is a totally different election build-up, and that is why people are now hoping that there will be huge turnout and records will be broken as far as South Kashmir is concerned, because Srinagar and South Kashmir used to be boycott areas. North Kashmir used to be better, but Srinagar and South Kashmir used to see very low turnout, and the focus was always on ensuring that the day goes on peacefully. But this time around, it has been a vibrant election atmosphere. Everyone has been campaigning without fear, and that is really something that's good about these elections, about the build-up. Now, the police obviously is not lowering its guard. The security agencies, they are basically prepared to ensure foolproof security. As I said, in fact, the companies that were deployed here for the Amarnath Yatra, they have been kept here for these elections, and they will also be at the disposal of the local police to deploy them in sensitive areas. So the security agencies ensuring and doing what they have been, what their mandate is. But as far as the candidates are concerned or the voters, it is probably the first time that they'll be able to really cast their ballot without the fear of the bullet, without the fear of the guns and grenades and stones. And that is something new about these elections. And then there are also the likes of Jamaat-e-Islami, who used to be the biggest votaries of boycott, and this time around they themselves are in the fray as far as South Kashmir is concerned. Rajdeep?
Very interesting there, Amir Farid, giving us a very comprehensive look of why these elections are so distinct. You've put out various factors, and it's fascinating to see just how much has changed possibly in the last 10 years, some for the better, some possibly not so good, but either way, it is a possibility, a window that has opened up in the Kashmir Valley, and hopefully that window will open up fully. Mir Farid, thanks very much for joining us. I want to turn from him to a special guest who's joining me. Wajat Habibullah was one of Kashmir's senior most bureaucrats for several years, former divisional commissioner in Srinagar and other parts of the state, worked very closely with Dr. Farooq Abdullah as well. Wajat Habibullah, welcome to Elections Unlocked. As you might have heard Mir Farid saying, it's a very, it's an election which is very distinct to what we've seen certainly over the last 3 decades. Lots of enthusiasm among political candidates. They're attacking each other, and turnout is expected to be higher than it's ever been. Give us your recollections of what elections used to be like, particularly in the 1990s and early 2000s, when the threat of militancy really seemed to push people to stay indoors. How difficult was it to conduct a peaceful election in Jammu and Kashmir?
Firstly, I don't think I would agree with Farid in the sense that he says that this is the first time around that this is happening, because the parliamentary elections, if you will recall, had a very good turnout, and they were very, very, very open, and it was an open competition. Those, as you know, were swept out of 3 out of the 4 seats of J&K, and means Ladakh also was taken by the National Conference. But yes, since your question is regarding my experience, I was, of course, a divisional commissioner of Kashmir in a very difficult period. Not so much under Farooq. Under Farooq, I only served a few months toward the end of 1999. But I was there during governors, let me central rule. And this was 1990 to 1994 when I had an accident. There were no elections at that time. But I have participated in the electoral process. I was Deputy Commissioner of Srinagar in 1977, when it is said that the first actually free and fair elections were actually held in JK. So my recollection of those times is really not so much that the public disorder, public was not willing to participate. The public was extremely willing to participate in the elections. But unfortunately, the elections were not openly conducted. After 1996, at the behest of Mr. Narasimha Rao, the elections were again conducted in J&K. And as you remember, Farooq was elected as chief minister. Now, those were not because people were coming and pelting stones and so on and so forth that they were restricted. There was generally a boycott call for elections, and security was very, very heavy. Security forces were themselves going out to threaten people not to come out and vote. That is what is different now. Clearly, security forces are all working with the people to see that there are elections. I don't know if that is entirely true, of course, because I've received reports from
But we are seeing, if I may, we saw the turnout in Lok Sabha just a few
Yes.
months ago, much higher than what we've
That's
seen
right.
in recent times. So
That's
clearly
right.
there is enthusiasm. I was in the valley and people said, look, even if it's a protest vote, we will vote. In the past,
Correct.
you protested by boycotting. Now, people are
Correct.
willing to come out and express themselves either way by voting. You mentioned 1977. Tell us, was that many believe that this is reminiscent to that. Lots of people participated. Sheikh Abdullah won that election, but every party was out there. Now we are seeing even the Jamaat, through independence, is actually putting up candidates. So it almost seems as if every party wants a slice of the election pie this time, and that's a positive.
Good, certainly a positive. And so far as your question regarding the 77 election is concerned, the Jamaat actually contested that. Ali Shah Gilani,
That's right.
The supreme leader, 1970, they all participated in support of whom? The Janta Party. Sheikh Abdullah virtually stood alone. The Janta Party, the Awami Action Committee, which was Mir Waisa's party, it all supported the Janta Party. And then, of course, as you remember, Sheikh Abdullah had a heart attack at the time. And that was the time that I was, in fact, Deputy Commissioner of Srinagar, which was considered the most difficult of all the constituencies. But that was the position. And so from there, comparing it to 1977 in some ways, yes, because the centre the centre led by Morarji Desai's government played a very important role. Morarji Desai came to campaign there, just as Mr. Narendra Modi is coming to campaign. Jagdeep Ram came to campaign there. Chaudhry Charan Singh came to campaign there. My friend George Fernandez came to campaign there. So from that point of view, maybe there are similarities. But the result was that the National Conference virtually swept that election. Is that going to happen at the same time, the same way this time? Well, it remains to be seen. But certainly, this contest, my feedback from within the valley is this contest, this election is extremely colorful, and it's extreme celebration, which in itself, of course, is a triumph.
What is the biggest challenge, though, in holding an election, particularly in that period when separatists would have boycott calls, when there was the threat of the gun? What was the biggest challenge in holding an election?
The security forces. The security forces were the biggest challenge at that time because they would discourage people from coming out to vote. They would discourage people from gathering. Now, unless you gather, it's very difficult to conduct an election. People gather, there is electioneering. People are told that you vote for so-and-so, you don't vote for so-and-so. On the one hand, and that's the heavy deployment of the security forces triggered a boycott. People would say this election is not going to be fair. Look at the turnout. Look at the deployment of security forces. This is not going to be a fair election. So it is absurd to contest this election. That was and the basic cause was that. But and before that, unfortunately, there was outright rigging of elections, which people felt they were going to be rigged in any case. So why contest? This was
that's the point. You mentioned rigging for a moment. 1987. I'm taking you back in time because I think our viewers need to know. 1987, many believe, was the election that turned Kashmir around, gave militancy an impetus because there was a widespread perception that the elections were rigged. Is that something that troubles you all these years later?
You see, I wasn't in Kashmir in 1987.
But generally, that was the perception. That was the perception across.
That is a misperception. A misperception why? Because in fact, up to 1977, elections were regularly rigged. Now, you had the 1977 election, and you had the 1983 election. In 1987, when I went back to Kashmir as commissioner, and I inquired into this, and I've written about it also. There were certainly, I mean, I can mention a particular constituency about which others have also written, Amina Kadal, which was definitely rigged. But there was partial rigging in those elections, but it was not that it was all one-sided. There were a number of seats of the National Conference, which were also manipulated by supporters of the opposition side through the usual means of the old. I mean, I don't have to go into the nature of the rigging now, that would take too long. But that was used by all sides. And the 87 election was, yes, not a free and fair and open election. That's correct.
What you're effectively saying is we've come a long way. Kashmir has gone through the ups and downs, the turbulence of democracy, charges of rigging, of security forces, creating a situation where voters felt constrained, where there were boycott calls by separatist groups, and the shadow of the gun. Hopefully, tomorrow represents a new dawn, at least in terms of the fact that we expect a high turnout and a more buoyant electorate. Wajat Habibullah, for taking us down memory lane.
This point, the dawn came with the parliamentary elections.
Sure.
This is the rising, hopefully, should be the rising of the sun above the dawn.
Okay, that was the dawn. This is the rising of the sun. Either way, we'll wait and see which way the sun rises in Jammu and Kashmir this time. Wajat Habibullah, thank you very much for joining me here on Elections Unlocked. Let me turn to Anantnag in South Kashmir. It will vote tomorrow. My colleague Pooja Shali has been traveling across South and North Kashmir. Today she brings you a ground report from Anantnag where she spoke to Kashmiri Pandits about their aspirations from this election. Take a look.
कहते थे आदितम प्रथम नामम द्वितीयम तु दिवाकरम तृतीयम भास्वम प्रोक्तम चतुर्थ प्रभाकरम पंचमम तु सहस्रासु षष्ठम च लोचना सप्तम हरद्वश्च अष्टम च विवासु नवम दिनकशम दशम आचुका एकदशम त्रिमूर्ति द्वादशम सूर्य त्रयोदशना मार्तंडम और 13वां सूर्य जो आप ये देख रहे हैं, ये 13वें सूर्य का बृहत प्लेस है। कश्यप ऋषि के नाम से बना हुआ कश्यप ऋषि ने कश्मीर को बसाया है, क्योंकि उसको ब्रह्मा विष्णु महेश का वरदान था कि जब भी कश्यप ऋषि भी अवतारित होंगे वो कश्मीर को बसाएंगे।
आपको लगता है कि अच्छा है, थोड़ा सा कुछ रेनोवेशन हो रहा है, थोड़ी धर्मशाला बन रही है?
हमको तो बहुत खुशी है, क्योंकि हमने जो पहला यहाँ स्टार्ट किया, हमने 99 से यहाँ पर पहला कैंप स्टार्ट किया। तो उस साल में यहाँ पर मलमास दुमासा कहते हैं, जिसको दुमासा कहते हैं, अधिक मास कहते हैं, लोन का महीना कहते हैं, तो बानु मास कहते हैं, वो यहाँ पर था 99 मई में। तो उसके बाद हमने वहाँ से शुरुआत की और हम उस दौरान हम कोई 3-4 महीने यहाँ पर रहे। फिर धीरे धीरे बढ़ता गया और हर साल में एक महीना एक्सटेंड होता गया।
आपको लगता है कि पंडित्स वेलफेयर का, उनकी कम्युनिटी के बारे में नेताओं को सोचना जरूर चाहिए, वो इलेक्शन में बातचीत होनी चाहिए?
जो इलेक्शन है, इलेक्शन बहुत ही अच्छी प्रोसेस है। गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की तरफ से जो डिसीजन लिया गया है, हम कश्मीरी पंडित्स इसका वेलकम करते हैं। हाँ, वेलकम के साथ साथ हमारा जो सबसे बड़ी है कि हमारा ध्यान जो कश्मीरी पंडितों का यहाँ पुनर्निवास, यहाँ दोबारा बसाना, ये गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को देखना है।
सारी पार्टीज ने मेंशन तो किया है, लेकिन मेंशन करना और उस पर कुछ करना, जैसे पीएम पैकेज एक स्कीम आई, उसके बाद और कुछ एफर्ट तो आपको करने पड़ेंगे एज नेता। जो
उनको कोशिश करनी चाहिए। वैसे हर एक पार्टी ने मैनिफेस्टो में रखा है, मगर करना और करने और करने में जमीन का अंतर बहुत फर्क होता है। इसलिए हम ये उम्मीद यही करते हैं कि अगली जो गवर्नमेंट आएगी और जो भी सेंटर में इस वक्त गवर्नमेंट है, तो आपस में रल मिल बैठ के हमारे जो माइनॉरिटी लोग हैं उनका कोई रास्ता निकाल दे रिहेबिलिटेशन का। साथ साथ मैं ये भी कहता हूँ कि यहाँ की मेजॉरिटी लोग जो सिविल सोसाइटी है, उनको भी आगे आना चाहिए कि उनका ज्यादा रोल बनता है।
उन्हीं का रोल फर्क सबसे ज्यादा
बनता है कि वो आगे आए और इसका एक पुल बन जाए और यहाँ की रिहेबिलिटेट फिर हो जाए, फिर ऐसी वादी हो जाए जैसे एक बगीचा जो है मल्टी कलर
स्वर्ग
कहते हैं, मल्टी फ्लावर्स होते हैं, वैसा फिर बन जाए और हम यही उम्मीद करते हैं।
हम चाहते हैं भाई अभी आ रहे हैं वापस सारे मकान बना के ये बनाया है कि चाहते हैं हम बनाएंगे। इधर जन्मभूमि है तो इधर आने का तो कोई सवाल ही नहीं है भाई, नहीं आने का सवाल ही नहीं है।
Okay, let me turn to my other special report today. It comes from Haryana, where the farmers of Haryana, remember, are a sizable vote bank. They constitute nearly 70% of the population, and by all accounts, the farmers seem angry. While the farmers' agitation is no longer as vibrant an issue, the fact is that there is a reality on the ground where farmers seem to feel that they've been betrayed by several governments, including the incumbent BJP government and other governments in the past. Asim Bassi brings you this report explaining why the farmer vote will be crucial this time in Haryana.
Haryana is primarily agricultural, with 70% of its population engaged in farming. During the farmers' agitation of the country, a big share of it was from Haryana. For this election, they are the voters with maximum decisive power in the state. Thousands of farmers reached Kisan Mahapanchayat held recently in Anaj Mandi of Uchana Kalan in Jind. They are angry with the incumbent BJP government.
प्रशासन ने हरियाणा की भाजपा के इशारे पे हमारे ऊपर जुल्म और जाति करने का कार्य करते हैं, गोलियां चलाते हैं, जहरीली गैसों का इस्तेमाल किसानों के ऊपर करते हैं। हम किसी भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को सपोर्ट नहीं करते, किसी भी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी को वोट देने की अपील नहीं करते। हम सिर्फ एक बात कह रहे हैं, जिन लोगों ने पिछले 10 साल से सत्ता में रहते हुए किसानों और मजदूरों के साथ जाति करने का कार्य किया, उनको हमें चुनाव में सबक सिखाना है।
Like in Punjab, farmers in Haryana too have started questioning BJP candidates. Both former Minister Anil Vij and Narayangarh candidate Pawan Saini faced the heat as farmers घेरावed them.
केंद्र में मोदी है, हरियाणा में सैनी सरकार है, तो उनका विरोध पहले भी करते थे, आगे भी उनका विरोध जारी रहेगा। एमएसपी लीगल गारंटी कानून का वादा करके कानून नहीं बनाती, किसान मजदूर का कर्ज माफ नहीं करती।
मैं हरियाणा के तमाम किसान भाइयों से हाथ जोड़ के और सिर झुका के ये प्रार्थना करना चाहता हूं कि 5 अक्टूबर को जब आप वोट डालने जाओ तो किसी भी गांव से 5 से ज्यादा वोट बीजेपी को नहीं जानी चाहिए।
पंजाब और हरियाणा के किसानों ने 13 फरवरी से शंभू बॉर्डर पर मोर्चा लगाया है, लेकिन अब जब हरियाणा में चुनाव है तो किसानों ने भी फोकस शिफ्ट किया है। महापंचायत हो रही है, किसान इकट्ठे हो रहे हैं और आह्वान किया गया है कि जिस पार्टी और सरकार ने किसानों के ऊपर टीयर गैस चलाई, लाठीचार्ज किया, उन पार्टी का और नेताओं का विरोध किया जाए।
This anger was evident in the Lok Sabha election results. Held just 3 months before the assembly election, BJP fortunes took a nosedive in Haryana. From winning all 10 seats in 2019 down to 5, BJP was shocked with the 2024 outcome.
Farmers and agriculture cannot get justice from the BJP government. The best way the farmers can punish what has happened over the last 10 years is to throw out the BJP government in the next election.
हरियाणा की 100% फसल एमएसपी पर खरीदने का निर्णय देश का पहला राज्य हमने किया है। मैं आम आदमी की मुखिया को भी कहना चाहूंगा, पंजाब के अंदर उनकी सरकार है, वो यहाँ आकर के झूठ बोलना फैलाने का काम कर रहे हैं। वो वहाँ के किसानों की फसल को एमएसपी पर खरीदने की घोषणा करें, उनको आश्वासन दें।
With Asim Bassi in Jind, Bureau Report, India Today.
That's it then for this edition of Elections Unlocked. News and updates continue on the other side of the break. Keep watching India Today for all the news. Thanks for watching. Stay well, stay safe. Jai Hind, Namaskar.